It's spectacular. And I've actually spent a lot of time fishing and camping up in the Upper Peninsula, and literally the mosquitoes are the size of helicopters, and
really
they will cart you away.
They will.
But it really is. It's such a wild. It's like Alaska. It actually reminds me.
Yeah,
of
it's
Alaska.
really, really pretty. And I know we've actually talked about this previously on the show, but if you haven't been, it is a whole other country, as they used to say about Texas. Yeah. It's really pretty up there. Get a chance, you should go.
It's worth the road trip if you're going to do a summer road trip.
Totally love the UP.
Fantastic idea.
Go through the UP and brave the mosquitoes. You're better than that, bigger than them. So
Stop in Wisconsin and get some cheese curds.
Now you're talking.
There you go. Yeah. So obviously we've got a lot going on today in Washington and news all around. But we've got this: Chief Justice John Roberts taking on dangerous rhetoric aimed at judges yesterday. Listen to this.
It becomes wrapped up in the political dispute that a judge who's doing his or her job is part of the problem. And the danger, of course, is somebody might pick up on that. And we have had, of course, serious threats of violence and murder of judges just simply for doing their work. So I think the political people on both sides of the aisle need to keep that in mind.
Did the Chief Justice give this kind of a speech when Brett Kavanaugh, during the hearings for Brett Kavanaugh?
You know, he was a little bit quieter about that.
Yeah.
But I give him credit. I mean, and I know that conservatives have a lot of problems with John Roberts. I have a lot of problems with John Roberts. But you know, I agree. I think that, you know, a good 90% of his rulings have been pretty sensible. But I do think that he cares deeply about the judiciary. And I think that he does want to protect the integrity of the judiciary. And he obviously wants to protect his judges. And I took that as kind of a shot. I assume that that's a shot at both sides, but you make a good point. He wasn't nearly as quiet. You didn't hear him talking nearly as loudly about this when Chuck Schumer talked about the Supreme Court reaping the whirlwind out on the front steps of the Supreme Court.
And there was a guy who showed up at Brett Kavanaugh's house with crazy stuff in his trunk that was obviously trying to do some harm.
Absolutely. And this is one of the problems with discourse in Washington. It's sort of vacillates. Sometimes it's overheated and other times it's quite muted. But the truth is, when it comes to judges and the judiciary, some of this is actually borne out by lawmakers and the way that they are, I believe, irresponsible in the way that they speak. You mentioned Schumer, and I can point to probably chapter and verse a number of people making arguments against the judiciary, even when they are just trying to do their jobs. But don't mistake criticism for somehow condoning violence. I think sometimes they should be criticized. Some of the judges do a poor job and can't figure out, you know, space aliens and legalese and things like that. So I think
who is a woman? What is a woman?
You know what I'm saying?
Kentucky Jackson.
Yeah, especially if you're putting people on the court exactly for political partisan purposes. And that's not what we want. Right. What we want is we want a nonpartisan judiciary.
That's right.
You need to have a nonpartisan judiciary. That's the kind of the whole point of the judiciary. But when you pick people who don't know can't define what a woman is,
amazing,
or they are, and I mean, the right used to have a real problem picking bad judges who wound up becoming political hacks. The left still has a problem with that, and you know, although I would defend a lot of the especially President Trump's picks, who have gone on the court and remained loyal to the Constitution.
Some are better than others.
Yeah, but that's the ideal here.
Yeah,
and some aren't even trying it. A great example of it is Justice Elena Kagan, who interestingly voted against the recent ruling in the court that eliminated the idea of nationwide injunctions, where you have a lower court federal judge who can issue an injunction that affects the whole rest of the country. She's against it under President Trump.
Yeah.
Previously, back in 2022, when President Biden was president, she was in favor of it. Watch this.
That can't be right, that one district court, whether it's in, you know, in the Trump years, people used to go to the Northern District of California. And in the Biden years, they go to Texas. And it just can't be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its tracks and leave it stopped for the years that it takes to go through normal process.
And so if John Roberts cares about the integrity of the judiciary, I hope he says something to her about the fact that she's being a political hack right here.
She was for it before she was against it.
Yeah, it's so incredible.
Or against it before she was for it.
Exactly.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, she was against it then, but now she's like, hey, wait a minute. And I get it. There were some who were saying, well, when it was mifepristone and the abortion drug, people are like, you shouldn't be able to stop an entire, administration's policies by reaching out to a favorable court and one judge do this. And now, of course, these very same people are saying, wait a minute, this is our last line of defense against a renegade executive.